Today, it's time for me to revive this absolute classic design. It's an old metal Chaos Space Marine sorcerer, and I'm gonna be making some custom parts to bring this into the 21st century. If you've been watching along, I am reviving my childhood army, the first army I ever made when I was about 12 years old, and I'm remaking it with brand new models, brand new parts on a one-to-one basis. So it's time to tackle the sorcerers. Let's get down to business. So in the good old days when I started collecting Warhammer, Chaos Sorcerers were available in blister packs. There were 3 different varieties and they were all metal. So I ended up with these 2 classics. Both of them typified by their giant hats. Like absurdly giant hats. It's such a vibe, it's such an era of Warhammer having these giant hats. This guy's hat and head combo is bigger than the height of the entire rest of his torso. And it's when I was looking at these that I realized the sorcerer with the 8-pointed hat clearly served as the design inspiration for the modern Chaos Space Marine sorcerer. There's only one monopose model available. It's similar to the metal ones, you can't really change the pose. And he's only available with a bare head. But when we look at the design features of this model, he has the 8-pointed staff with an orb in the center. He has a cloak on the lower half of the body, including a book chained to the right hip, dangly doodads. He's got the backpack with the sort of Hydra mouths on it. And the only real distinction here is he doesn't have a plasma pistol, but in every other way, I think he's very reminiscent of this model. So I think what I want to do today to remake this classic one is, well, use the Chaos Sorcerer pretty much as it is, but there's one massive change I need to make, and that's the helmet. I need to make this helmet, this stupid giant helmet, and I need to make it look cool in 2025. So the first thing I've done is cutting out, clipping together, and positioning this monopose plastic kit. With that already, I can get an idea of the size and dimensions that I'm going to need to custom make this helmet. Which means we are going to need to head over to Blender for a moment while I design this helm. Welcome to the digital world. Games Workshop, if you could kindly look away for this segment. So I don't sell these, I produce these for personal use, which means you can't get me with anything. But I basically made a mock-up of the beaky helm so I could do Alpha Legion modifications. So at least I have the rough dimensions of a head. And I'm gonna take that and delete pretty much all of the distinguishing features and make my own helmet. So the most iconic element on this sorcerer's helmet is this big grill at the front. It's quite reminiscent of a knight and the visor they pull down to joust. So that's the first part I'm gonna create. And I basically pull this out, smoothing it nicely and deforming it, pulling it up at the front and the bottom to emulate the reference image I have as best as possible. Once I've created this gives me the broad shape for the visor, and now I can start to detail it. To detail it, I manipulate planes and vertices and basically create these little lightning bolt teeth shapes, and then I use a modifier called the shrink wrap tool, which like sucks the parts onto the model and it kind of contours around the geometry. And once I've done this, I can then extrude them out, thicken them again, and there we go, we have trim. With the visor done, I can add in a bunch of tubes. And here I was following along with the tutorial to make tubes using nodes and replicated geometry. Long story short, it allows the tube to kind of follow the contours and not deform in weird ways. It looks really good and I'm happy with it. But now it's the spiky headrest. And all I'm doing here is just moving polygons around and replicating as best I can the reference image I have behind me. One thing always worth noting when sculpting at this scale is that things need to be much bigger than you think they need to be. They always look kind of goofy and silly in the software, but when you print them, they're gonna be a lot smaller. So things like the rivets and details on the trim, I kind of need to go pretty big here for them to even turn out small. With all these pieces in place, the headdress decorated, I can print out a few samples and testers with different sizes and work out what's going to work best. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the real world. I'm gonna print these out and glue these on the model, but before I go back to the real world, I'm gonna take a spin on a couple of light cycles. That's a really modern reference. So if you've been enjoying the content we've been making over the past few years and releasing every week, well, it's all available for free on YouTube, but it's made available thanks to our amazing patrons. All the Patreon funds directly go towards producing more content. It literally enables us to have more days working, get more time with Jen, more time with Murray, and produce bigger, more ambitious and cooler projects for you all. And if you're interested in joining, we have a bunch of perks, including a private Discord where you can chat with us, share your whips, gifts. We do a monthly mini review where we check out your minis. It's often where we're sharing concept art and discussing upcoming things with the Kindred of the Abyss and other miniature lines we're making. In fact, the factions we chose were decided by patron votes first and foremost. I do a weekly little update vlog where you can see a candid chat on Monday morning about how things have been going, about video performance. And finally, we occasionally put some extended cuts and additional scenes up there as well. There's a bunch over on Patreon, so if you want more tabletop time, more me, well, that's where you get it. Thanks for your support, everyone, and thanks for your time for those who didn't skip. So I've printed out a couple of copies of this helmet in different sizes and ultimately can pick the size that I think will work the best. And with this positioned in the model, I'm really happy with it. It's a little bit less extreme and more in proportion than the original design, but I still think it really captures the over-the-top flair and it feels like an evolution of my classic model. One thing I will note that I really love about this model for my Alpha Legion in particular is the backpack is covered in coiling snakes. And I can totally flavor these as hydras, and I just get the vibe that he feels really appropriate as an Alpha Legion sorcerer. Even the little rune in his hand is a rune with the symbol of an eye on it rather than a flaming ball or a weapon attack. And in the lore, Alpha Legion sorcerers are often employed using obfuscation to hide their motives, their appearance, and basically just blank them from the minds of enemies. Effectively stealth wizards. And interestingly, from a painting perspective, that eye is going to be a source of light just as a plasma pistol would have, so it kind of works there as well. I'm really happy with this, but there's something missing. There is a second model that I need to make because, of course, I had 2 sorcerers when I was a child and I'm making my army 1 for 1. Now, realistically, in modern Warhammer, I don't plan on running 2 sorcerers in my list, but to be true to the project, I'm still going to make 2. I'll only be painting the first one up in this video because my plan is, as a character model, to lavish it with a bit more love and attention, and that paint job is going to take quite a while. But I still wanted to share the process of building and converting the second Alpha Legion sorcerer with you all. So here it is. So we have my Chief Sorcerer for my Alpha Legion and I'm making a guy who maybe won't see too many games. I can go a bit creative with it. Recently, I produced videos where I talk about my Plague Marines and also my Noise Marines, additions to my army that were in my childhood list. And a lot of people have said they'd love to see me add Rubrikai and also Khorne Berserkers to my army, rounding out the 4 god units. And you know what? This was always my intent when I was a child, and it is my intent today. After I finish this 1-to-1 remake, I do plan on adding new units to the army, and doing a squad of Rubrikai and a squad of Khorne Berserkers would be really cool. So in the spirit of Rubrikai, I decided to add an aspiring sorcerer who might lead those Rubrikai. Someone who has joined my Alpha Legion late in the game but was originally from the Thousand Suns. Conveniently, while I was filming this video, the Warp Flame Thrall Band for the Thousand Suns came out, and inside that there is a squad of the Exalted Sorcerers. Now I'm going to avoid any of the mutated bits that might signify him as an Exalted Sorcerer and effectively make a dynamic build out of this kit that is just a regular sorcerer. Now there is a major conversion I do need to make here. It's only one, but it's vital. So what I'm going to do here is carve off the back of this character and replace his torso with a Forge World Alpha Legion upgrade part. These parts are wallowing in my drawers right now because the rescaling of all the Horus Heresy bits means that it's hard for me to find uses for these old resin parts anymore that are often not compatible with new kits. So to do this, I do need to fully carve the back off this model, but with a little bit of work, I can fit it and we have this really nice ornate Alpha Legion themed chest plate instead of the Thousand Suns one, showing where this model has kind of fused 50-50 between the two. He was once a Thousand Sun and still carries those trappings, but now he wears the battle plate of the Alpha Legion. For the choices on this model, I picked all of the coily ibis heads. I think they also kind of are reminiscent of snakes and hydras despite being birds, the way the long necks curve, and then these beaked heads. It could just be an artistic interpretation of a hydra. Or maybe just signifying that this guy is a member of the Corvidae and his prescience told him to come join the Alpha Legion. What a sensible fellow. With these conversions done, and knowing that war gear doesn't really mean anything anymore, I decided to equip him with an awesome staff and also one of those Sekhmet blades, the Khopesh. I think this looks really cool and makes him look quite a bit different, a bit more of an aggressive combat mage than perhaps my other Alpha Legion sorcerer. But that's all my cutting, converting, kit bashing done. It's time to get down and paint what could be the nicest paint job in my Alpha Legion army yet. Well, at least that's the intent. Yes, sorry, I need to interrupt you all. This is not sponsored in any way. It's been a long time since we've done a sponsored video for Tacticus. This is just because I play it every day. Our guild has 4 spots empty, so if you want to play with Tabletop Time, I'll put a link down in the description to join the Tabletop Time guild in Tacticus. You do need to be a decent rank because we're like casual, but we do try. So if you play Tacticus and you're sick of your guild and want to join us at Tabletop Time, come join Tabletop Time. Come play Tacticus with me. I'm a little bit obsessed. All right, back to the video. So over a month ago, the plan was that I would build, convert, and paint this model and enter it at Arc Open. Arc Open is a painting competition held at ArcFest, which is an annual Warhammer 40k tournament that is becoming a convention. This year adding multiple new games and also starting to add a little trade hall. It's really exciting to see this growing in the area. I actually ran out of time to complete this in time for that, but when I did go to ArcFest, they had some painting classes for the first time. So Murray, Jen, and I entered a little class done by Alexi K Paints over on Instagram that was basically talking about how to rapidly improve, as he had gone from rising star to a best in show winner in just 12 months. And he talked about painting with intent. So I took that knowledge home and thought about it and decided with this model that I'm going to paint with intent. So tackling the commencement of my project, I followed the same pattern that I usually do, dry brushing in my metallics over a purple base coat. However, painting with intent means choosing an area that I'm going to deliberately try and improve on. And the area I'm going to try and improve on is my directional lighting from above, just a simple solo light. Rather than painting the GW no light style of heavy metal where highlights are uniform, I'm trying to start to paint some more realistic zenithal lighting in my models. And the main area I'm going to focus this attention is in how I paint the cloth, and I'm going to try and work on stippling as well. When I do paint models like this and I'm painting to a higher standard than I usually do, I often like to bounce around the model, painting a test area to completion before painting all the base coats. This allows me to stay sane because I hate base coating, and having to base coat all of the parts on all of the model at all the time wouldn't give me that satisfaction of seeing an area finished. So on this model, I started with the leg, testing out some of these new attempts at doing metal highlighting using true metallic metal techniques, which I also feel like I'm setting myself up for a difficult time, rather than non-metallic metal, which is easier when you're learning lighting to get the control right because you're not dealing with actual reflections on metallic pigments. With the leg and chest done, I could move on to the main show, which is basically this robe. And one of the things I'm starting to realize is that I need to push my contrast significantly more. I need to allow my shadows to be much darker tone than the base tone. And then I need to bring up my highlights to really bright points. You see this level of contrast a lot in the painting that's done over on Squidmar by Emil and Lucas. They have a really effective grasp of rapidly putting in color and values and having a high contrast between those highs and those lows, which makes their minis really pop at a distance. And it's something I want to get better at. I'm basically detraining myself from years of the Citadel method of painting. Also, I'm focusing on layering up my colors using stippling, which is a technique I quite like for fabric, using the paintbrush to just dab on colors and going back and forth in multiple layers. It blends a nice gradient together, but it also adds texture, which makes the fabric really look distinct from other parts of the model. Going over the fabric back and forth was time consuming, but also really fun. I find pushing myself and trying new things in painting is one of the times that I'm the most engaged. And when you're painting armies like this, it's really valuable to have those little breaks where you can stop what you're doing and really just enjoy the process of painting for a while. So this model is serving as an absolute treat for that. Going across the rest of the model, I paint my gold. I use black gold here from Scale 75 and Peridot Alchemy to highlight with a green wash in between. And broadly, I've covered this paint scheme multiple times, and you can see it in earlier videos, especially the last one I did a full run through of the color scheme. So mostly focusing on the things I did a little bit differently here. So in that area of difference, the leather belts and also the trim on the leather gloves, I painted in a burgundy color. The color I usually reserve for weapon handles and also weapon wraps that they often have in Warhammer. And I use the same stippling methods and higher contrast than I usually would to try and make this look a little bit better. And I do think it worked. I'm really happy with certain areas, especially the belt at the front. And there were two more quite technical bits of painting here. One of them, which I'm terrified of, which is OSL. I absolutely suck at it. I need to get better at it. And I tried 3 times to paint this. And overall, it took a while just to get to something that I was moderately happy with. It's difficult to do OSL when there is a really bright room light above. I find when I have been successful with it, it's been when I've been doing like 2 points of lighting, you know, a fire over here and some blue moonlight over there. That can allow you to keep the rest of the model super dark, but when you're trying to have a super bright light source in like just a regular overcast day or a moderately well-lit indoor environment, I find it hard to get that contrast and brightness looking correct. But overall, I did attempt this and I think I've done an okay job in the end. So it's not casting like a spotlight glow in his hand, it's just some green magic that's sort of lightly glowing. Then I moved through, painted all of the backpack, finished stippling on the back of the model. There was a lot of work to do just to bring everything up to the same standard before I could finally finish up with some freehand on the shoulder. I have some vague plans to create a transfer sheet of water slide decals for all of my army, but for this model, especially being a character, I wanted him to feel a bit more complete. So I did paint my Alpha Legion Task Force KTOS logo, which is the Alpha Omega overlaid on top of a cog in the vague shape of a squid, showing their alliance with the Dark Mechanicus and the Titans of Legio Scylla. And with those steps done, the model is complete and we can check out some reveals, and you can tell me if you think I've done a good job elevating my model a little bit above the rest of the models in my army. Let's check it out. This has been a really fun adventure. I hope you like my Chaos Sorcerer. I really felt that I was able to elevate my painting here, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, target a specific area and try and improve, and that was on the fabrics and the cloth highlighting. Obviously, I won't be doing this for every model in the army, but I think as a character model, this one really stands out. It's a big shock to me doing the side-by-side that the classic is still taller than the new one because the helmet is just like ridiculous, but sometimes in modernization, we have to tone things down. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you would like to watch more of my Chaos Alpha Legion videos, they're all on the channel, and I've only got a few more to go before I'm finished my army. So we'll see you in the next video. You leave, I'm staying here.